What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Stand Up Guys Podcast, episode 166. I'm your host, the incomparable Zach Jones, joined as always by the Ninth Wonder, Chocolate Thunder, taking Dumpkins and getting Blumkins. Step aside the Batman and make way for the Scatman. Nothing makes him moan like a rusty trombone. The phenomenal A.J. Singh.
All right, hey everybody.
I always wondered, which of my intros do you hate the most?
Mostly the poop-related one.
So that one's got to be up there, right? Well, guys, it's that time of the week again where we will break down the latest episode of Loki. This is episode 3 of season 2. And AJ, before we get into specifics and really break down the episode, any top-level thoughts on this episode?
I'm not a big fan of the 1800s. It's just a bad time for Black people anyway. It just seemed weird to have King in that time period. It's so dirty. There's no technology. It's just, I get that he's a man who's got ideas that are beyond the scope of what they can do at that time period with the technology they have and everything they're building on that. But I just don't like the 1800s as a setting at all anyway, so I don't know.
So, are you not a fan of, Westerns and stuff that take, anything that takes place in the Old West?
I mean, I get the genre of the Westerns. I know going into those, what to expect, okay, it's a Western movie. It's going to be about cowboys and, natives or whatever. But in this situation, it's this is Kang the Conqueror, and he's in the 1800s. What? In the comics, he's from the year 3000, I think, or something, It just seemed weird to me that I know it's a variant, but
I mean, in the comics, isn't his origin retcon and stuff? Isn't it very confusing to where any time travels all the time? So there's a version of him that's in the ancient past too, and the future. He's all over the timeline. So I think
so in the comics, they were supposed to be variants, but then they become just one guy who just doesn't his mind is it's so separated from each person. He kind of forgets he even lived this life. So it's the same guy, but he just doesn't remember he was this person.
Maybe that'll eventually happen here where all of them get combined into one guy or something. But, I don't mind it because I just, I like with the show, that mix of genres, it's a sci-fi show, but we can have a little bit of Western mixed in and these kind of mashing up of genres. So I kind of like it. I wouldn't want it every episode, but I for this one-off episode, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, it's just, I could see the appeal of it also. It's kind of like an underdog. A guy from the year 3000, he knows everything. He has all the power. He's above and beyond us. But a guy from the 1800s, he has to figure it out. He has to learn, what am I capable of with this technology now? What can I do? So I do see that part of it. I definitely think there is upside for, from what I've seen anyway. I think there's a way to move up from here.
I do wonder, though, this whole thing about, he who remains died, so now all these different variant Kangs are popping up. But, are all the variants, born around the same time, is what I wonder? And, are they immortal? I don't know how it works exactly.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think they're immortal.
But they're all, they're all smart, so when they get to a certain age, they're able to build the time machines and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, they I guess they're all geniuses. I don't know. I haven't seen a stupid Kang yet, but I mean, I'm sure there is one out there.
Although, we'll find out in this episode, this Kang, if he didn't have the helping hand that he gets, would he eventually,
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah. So, I mean, I know he's the one who puts that in place. It's his own, maneuvering, but
right.
Also, I have questions. They're probably going to get answered in the future, but why did he choose this one to give this information to? Why did he choose this particular variant of himself?
I don't know if they'll ever answer that, but you're right, because you got to figure. Well, it's tricky because I don't exactly know. Like, they're going to this 1800 zone, but is this in like let's call like it seems like there's like a prime timeline, right? Let's call it the 616 universe like timeline or whatever that
Mhm.
all the MCU takes place in.
Yeah.
Like, is this 1800s they're going to? Would that be on the like the prime timeline, or is it a variant timeline in the past? You know, they don't really
Mhm.
say. So like, I'm like, well, maybe he picked this guy in particular because he's on like the prime timeline, but like maybe like not. Maybe it's just like a variant, and like maybe he could have, like you were alluding to, maybe he could have picked any other sort of Kang on any number of variant timelines. And like you're right, like why did he pick this guy?
Yeah, and I still don't know. Like, is one variant or is one Kang essentially that same Kang who died? Is it possible that he comes back, or is it all just variants of him?
Well, I had that same thought too, because you know we'll find out as we get into it that like he who remains put this plan into action before he died. So that's
Mhm.
what I was initially thinking, like, oh, like this is his plan to kind of be reborn again, essentially, like give this guy the upper hand and it'll become him, or some sort of time paradox thing.
Yeah.
But then during the episode, they're like, well, okay, we got to get this Kang, or we got this He Who Remains variant that can be used to like fix the time loom or whatever. So like, I I, I was I'm not sure. Like, my thinking is He Who Remains is like straight up dead, and like this guy, no matter what, wouldn't exactly be the same guy.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know for
Okay.
sure. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm up in the air. Like, I don't know for sure. I need some confirmation from the show that He Who Remains is not coming back, and that there's going to be a new version of him, like a variant that takes over that spot or something.
Yeah, like maybe they'll answer that eventually. But yeah, I was curious of that myself because when they started putting that into like the thing, I thought, okay, he's like maybe that's why he did pick this guy in particular because that was him, and he's
Yeah.
like, and like, or maybe it's a thing where like he was like he figured it out naturally before, but now if I get the upper hand with this book when I'm a kid, like I can figure it out even quicker or something like that. I
Right.
but yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I'm curious myself if they'll answer that or not. Um, Now before we like started the podcast, you were saying you think so far this is your least favorite episode.
Yeah. I just Kang just comes off as so meek, and so I get that's the point, but we saw him lose to Ant-Man already. Like, when is Kang gonna be Kang? Like, you know, I'm waiting for like the strong, scary villain. Like,
Well, I figure if they
yeah,
start him this way, though, at least then you get an arc and you get to see him become like probably more
yeah, for
ruthless.
sure, for sure. Especially him coming from a time period where he's never seen anything like what he's seeing around him now in this episode. Like, he's seeing what he calls a wizard. I think he calls Loki a wizard. He's
Right.
seeing all this new technology around him. So he's probably like he's an underdog right now. I get that.
He did. We'll get into it. He did one thing during this episode that I thought, oh, maybe he is a little more like savvy and cutthroat than we thought.
Yeah,
But then, like towards the end of the episode, you're like, he does come off as a little bit weak. So
yeah,
it goes back and forth a little bit. But yeah, you're right. In this episode, he mostly comes off as kind of meek. But uh, I'm okay with it. I will say though, performance wise, Jonathan Majors with this version of Kang, very much chewing the scenery. Like
Oh my
he,
gosh. When he first started talking at that fair, I was losing my mind. I was like, please stop taking these huge pregnant pauses between these words. Like, just get them out there, man.
it was
We know what you're
definitely
going to say.
it was definitely a choice, and he also put in like a little bit of like a stutter almost too.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like I was like, okay, he's playing this one big. Um, I mean, with him playing so many Kangs, like I'm kind of okay with it because you want them all to feel different, and you want,
Yeah.
but I don't know, maybe a little over the top with this one, but yeah, he definitely played it big. That's for sure.
But I think, like I said, I think he's going to evolve. I don't know how quickly he'll evolve, but I think he'll become like the more competent, uh, have more agency. He'll be better in the future. I think they're building towards that.
I do wonder, like, because we saw at that stinger on Quantumania, that whole thing with the arena like full of them, and you also had those kind of like three primary ones that you got to figure are going to play the biggest part going forward, and most of the other ones we probably really won't explore very much. But I think it would be kind of cool if like somewhere in the mix there was like one version of Kang that kind of ended up being a good guy, kind of,
Yeah.
or at least like not as like evil as the other ones. I think that could be interesting.
In the comics, that is the case. Like, there are times where Kang, like, he fights against himself and, like, tries to, he becomes a good guy. I think Iron Lad is one of them. Is that, I think, Iron Lad?
That sounds right. I mean, I've like listened to I know I listened to a podcast about Kang like a long time ago, and I think you're right. I think Iron Lad was like a version of him or something.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Well, AJ, should we get into the nuts and bolts of this episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So Loki, season 2, episode 3, entitled 1893. I did think it was cool. I jotted this down. They do the opening Marvel theme, but in like the old timey,
yeah.
Wild West piano. I thought that was kind of a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
But after the credits, we open up in Old West Chicago in the year 1868. So Renslayer appears out of a time door, and she meets up with Miss Minutes, who is hiding out in a barn. So Miss Minutes tells Renslayer that she must put this package that she brought along with her through a window, and that this is a plan set up by He Who Remains before he died. I believe she says to protect the timeline. And so Renslayer asks Miss Minutes, what's in it for her? What will she get out of it? And she's like, well, when he who remains is back in charge of the TVA, they basically will get a rule by his side. So we see a young version of He Who Remains get the package, which ends up being the TVA handbook that was, of course, written by OB. And we see that, like, he's got to be somewhat smart here anyway, because, like, the little kid's, like, doing some sort of experiment where he's, like, pouring liquid into, like, beakers or something.
Yeah.
So he's already, like, into science. So now we go back to the present day. So OB tells the team that they have to increase the loom's capacity or it will melt down. I do hope it seems like they're going to resolve this storyline next episode, which I'm glad of, because this has been like an ongoing thing of like, oh, the loom's melting down. So
yeah, it's been melting down for a while now.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you mentioned in the last episode, because they did prune so many of the timelines, that at least, I guess, gave them more time, which he mentions here as well. So without the time aura of He Who Remains, they determined that they need to find Miss Minutes, like she's their next best bet, to fix the loom. So they follow the hit they got on Renslayer's temp pad. So Mobius and Loki, I guess there was 2 hits on her temp pad, one in 1868 and one in 1893. So they go to 1868 first. They look around a little bit. It's funny because in the like there's this one set they run around it, and they do it again later, so you can like tell like they're getting the most use they can out of this like Wild West set where they just run around this same block. But anyway, they have a look around. They don't see her, so Mobius is like, well, let's go check out the other hit on her time pad, which is the same place but only in 1893. So they go to 1893, and it's the Chicago World's Fair. So they're walking down the street, and they're wondering like where they should go. When conveniently a little newsy type newsboy comes by, and he's like, you know, sell a newspaper, and the headline is there's a ghost clock. You know, people are saying they saw a ghost clock haunting, so they're like, oh, okay, Miss Minutes lead. So Mobius buys a paper. So they walk around some more, looking for Miss Minutes. There's this little thing where they see a wood carving of Thor, Odin, and Balder.
Really close approximations. Like in the 1800s, you see the Odin statue? It looked like pretty close to him.
I didn't look at it in detail. Was it pretty close to like Anthony Hopkins?
It looked a lot like, you know, what you would describe like the MCU Odin.
Well, you know, in the original Thor movie, like I believe like, you know, Odin did like, you know, visit Earth like and got in some sort of fight, and that's where like Norse mythology was like born out of, you know.
No, I understand that, but I thought that was like thousands of years ago.
It would have been. Well, maybe they made like carvings out of stone, and then like no, I don't know. You're right. It's a little preposterous. You know, they also had one of Balder, who used to be like a big deal in the comics. I wonder why they didn't use Balder in the Thor movies at all.
But isn't he like Thor's grandfather?
I don't remember the exact relation. I just remember he's supposed to be like this great warrior, you know.
Yeah.
But so they look around some more, and Loki sees a sign advertising Victor Timely's Temporal Marvels. And so they're like, oh, it deals with time. This has got to be it. So they go to this show, and before it opens, Mobius spots Renslayer in the audience. And like, he's going to head over to her, but Loki's like, no, don't do it yet. And then the lights go down and the show starts. So on stage, there's an early version of the Time Loom, and Victor Timely comes out. And yeah, I wrote down, Victor chews the scenery about how he wants to power the whole world. And then he turns the loom on, and it like shoots electricity all over the place. And I'm like, this thing seems like it could have killed somebody.
Yeah. And like, I don't know why people people end up wanting to buy it, but I'm like, how do you know what it does so far? It's just a big contraption that shoots electricity around. Like, I know it might power a light bulb here and there, but it could kill a bunch of people. Who knows what it could do?
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is like, I was like, okay, it's interesting that he has like an early version of the Time Loom, but like, this doesn't do what the Time Loom does. Like, this just seems like some sort of power generator, you know? Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I guess eventually he does something to it to create the Time Loom, but yeah, the crowd is kind of in awe of all the electricity and everything. So Renslayer goes over and tries to talk to Timely, but she gets interrupted by this guy with like a huge mustache man. Mm-hmm. And he says he wants to partner with Timely, and basically he's like, oh, you just have to sign the patent over to me, and then I'll use my factory to like machine it and everything. So like, you know, he's basically trying to screw him over and steal the patent, you know. Yeah. So Timely refuses, and he's like, no, I don't do partners. But then, like you were saying, like instantly all the men are like, they get into this bidding war. They're like, okay, well, I'll buy this, you know, machine from you. And they start bidding. But I'm like, and eventually like mustache guy offers $1,000, and Timely's like, oh, okay, I'll take it. And like, we find out in a minute that it seems like Timely was kind of like, you know, playing these guys, conning them somewhat. But it seems like if they had the machine, like they could still possibly recreate it and like, you know, make money off of it. You know, I don't know. It just seemed like maybe it would not have been a smart thing for him to like let them go see the machine. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Renslayer mentions the missed minutes. Like she's surprised, like this weird guy is going to become he who remains.
Hmm.
We get a scene where Loki steps on this big guy's foot. The guy wants to fight him. He's like, "You want to go outside and fight?" Loki uses his magic to make him disappear, which delights the crowd. Now, I don't remember like in most time travel stories, they're very like, oh, the butterfly effect. Like you got to make sure you don't ruffle too many feathers. It could, really screw things up in the future. Like it seems like in this show, like they really do some things, that could have disastrous effects.
Right. I mean, Renslayer already leaving the book is enough to like change the history of everything in the universe, I guess.
Right. That's true. Yeah. So Timely goes outside. Renslayer catches up to talk to him, but instantly Mobius and Loki like butt in. And then this was a weird scene, but they run into like this councilman guy who bought like these faulty trousers from Timely that I guess were supposed to like make him look taller or something.
Yeah.
And Timely's like, "Oh, I'll fix them next week or something to get rid of him." And then Loki's like, "Oh, you're a con man." And I think Timely has this line about how he's like, my ideas are sound. I just don't have the technology to make them come to life or something like that, But then that big mustache guy from before that paid him the $1,000, he shows up and he's like, your invention was a fake. And he's holding part of it or something.
Like a couple of wires or something.
Yeah. But I'm like, was it a fake? Because like it did something on stage,
Yeah.
It wasn't total. It might have been busted after he turned it on that one time, but
it looked like it was going to blow up. I think it stopped working or something. I'm not sure, but either way, like it was a prototype. He even told them.
Yeah, so I just thought it was kind of weird, but anyway, that guy starts to chase Timely. Timely runs away, and eventually he loses this guy on this Ferris wheel. Like he pretends to go in the Ferris wheel compartment. Oh, well, he does go in there, and then the other guy goes in and he sneaks out, and the Ferris wheel takes off. By the way, I've never seen a Ferris wheel like that with like the huge compartments that fit like a bunch of different people. I'm like, is that a real thing?
I don't know that. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So B-15 calls Mobius. This is another thing. I like that their technology is so sound that they can just have like a crystal clear like cell phone call like over hundreds of years,
Right, yeah.
So Mobius says they have a He Who Remains variant and can use his temporal aura to fix the loom. Casey, who's also on the line, says he had a weird temp pad reading 10 feet from where Mobius is standing. And sure enough, Sylvie shows up, her like green magic poof,
Mm-hmm.
And I think when she enters, like it knocks Loki and Timely into like one of those empty Ferris wheel compartments.
Right.
So she's trying to kill Timely, and of course Loki is trying to stop her. Loki tells Sylvie, he's like, I know you just want to go back to that variant timeline you're on and chill by the McDonald's or whatever, but he's like, if you kill this guy, the loom's going to break and we're all going to be dead. You're not going to be able to go back.
I had issue with Sylvie here. I mean, look, okay, so you're a Loki variant. Like, she knows, like, what Lokis have done. She knows what the Loki she's friends with has done. She knows, like, she shouldn't be blamed for that other person's crimes. And what's she gonna do? Like, kill every variant of He Who Remains? Like, it just seems like it doesn't make sense to me, her thinking.
I mean, that's kind of how they set it up, is like she hates He Who Remains so much that like she's going to stomp out every variant of him. But at the same time, like, I know she's had issues with Loki, but you would think she would trust him enough to be like, oh, okay, I see your point. Like I hate this guy, but everything's going to be destroyed if I don't let you, like...
True, yeah, she won't even have a world to go back to. Everything will be gone. But she's still hell-bent on killing him.
But, most of the Lokis, they're schemers in some way. So you would almost think, like, okay, like she would go, okay, I'll go to the TVA with you. I want to see this. And, like, after he, like, fixes the loom, then she would be like, okay, I'm going to kill him now.
Exactly.
Or something like that, It just seems like she would be smarter than just to be, like, this bloodthirsty, like, oh, I'm going to kill him. Like, she should be smarter than that. She should scheme a little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
So Sylvie sees Timely with the TVA book, and she very quickly puts it together that, like, Renslayer must have gave it to him, So Loki and Sylvie's, they have, like, a magic off. Their magic clashes, and Loki and Timely are thrown out of the Ferris wheel down to the ground. So Miss Minute, she grows really large to scare away the crowd. Which, again, if the butterfly effect is at all a thing, like, they're really screwing up this timeline. So while Miss Minute scares everyone away, Renslayer grabs Timely, and they get away. They go to, like, I don't know, like, Timely apparently has, like, a place while he's in Chicago. We find out in a minute, like, his main lab is not in Chicago, but he's got a little house here or something. So they go there. He does show Renslayer he made, like, this fancy, like, office chair, like, lazy boy or something that, like, can go up and down, and he even has, like, a refrigerator in the bottom, and it heats up, I think, too. So they tell Timely about He Who Remains and how they need to fix the loom. I think I might have skipped over. It's not a big deal, but while they were in the Ferris wheel, Mobius, like, tried to get Renslayer to, like, work with him, and, like, she kept refusing, basically. So he's like, well, Loki said the same thing to me, so, like, why aren't you guys working together if you seem to be on the same page? And she says he can't be trusted, and Miss Minute says Loki is the one that killed He Who Remains. So Timely says Loki was protecting him from Sylvie. So he's still, like, a little, like, confused. And Renslayer's like, oh, yeah, he often switches sides, plays both sides, that kind of thing, So Angry Mustache Man from before starts banging on the door. So Timely's like, well, it's time to go. And Renslayer's like, well, we can just take a time door to the TVA. But Timely says, nope, I can't leave without my newest prototype. And that's in my lab across the lake, he says. Because I think he says he lives in, like, his lab's in, like, Michigan or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So Loki uses his magic to scare away the men. Oh, yeah, because, like, I forget exactly what happens here. Basically, Timely and Renslayer get away. The Mustache Man, like, runs around, and he runs into Loki and Mobius. And so Loki just quickly, uses his magic, and it, like, scares those guys, and they go away. So once again, they, like, run around that old time set to use that again. And, like, they find out, oh, yeah, we lost Timely. So B-15, they call B-15 to run a trace on Renslayer's location. So Timely and Renslayer, they go to this ship, and I noticed, like, it was weird. They did some ADR, like, because they just show the boat, but we're hearing Timely's voice, like, tell the boat people, like, yeah, I'll take my usual, like, accommodation or whatever. And so I'm guessing, like, this is because they're black. They can't ride on the main part of the ship. So they end up riding in one of the lifeboats that's hanging on the side of the boat. So Timely and Renslayer start talking, and he said this device he's going to get is the key to understanding and controlling time. And Timely also, he puts it together also that Renslayer must have gave him the book when he was a kid, and she admits to that. So he gets out this journal that he has. It has like all of his ideas jotted down, and he shows her a picture of this device he calls the thought put multiplier, which he says can help with the loom. So I'm guessing that's the thing they're talking about that can make the loom so it can handle a larger number of like variant timelines. Is that what you got out of that?
Yeah.
The only thing is, didn't we already see like OB like building that thing in the last episode?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought, yeah, he did build something, didn't he? I don't know.
He built something, and then when he tried to hook it up, that's when he found out like
He needs his aura.
He needs aura. So Timely gives her a flower made out of paper, and we kind of get the sense that these guys are falling for each other, like they kind of romantically like each other.
Yeah.
But then this was I thought like kind of the most surprising thing in the episode. So like Renslayer falls asleep and she wakes up to the lifeboat being detached from the ship and like falling in the water. And like we look up, she looks up and like Timely and Miss Minutes are like, you know, waving goodbye to her. Like they got their own plan or whatever. And this is what I was referenced earlier. Like this, I thought, okay, this is kind of interesting because it didn't seem like a move that Timely would necessarily make. It seemed like,
right.
Oh, maybe he is a little more devious than he's letting on.
Yeah, I guess there was a point at the beginning of the episode where like somebody tells him like that guy, the mustachioed man says like, you know, let's make a partnership, and he refuses. And that word comes up again when Renslayer's talking to him. We're going to be great partners or something along those lines. And,
right.
I think that's what turned him off and caused him to react that way. But I mean, they got to dig deeper into why he's so against partnerships. I don't know.
But then again, like, doesn't he instantly, you know, we find out it's short lived, but he kind of, you know, makes a partnership with Miss Minutes seemingly right there.
Yeah.
So Timely gets to his lab and he grabs his device and he attempts to leave. But now Miss Minutes takes a turn and she gets real creepy. She's like, no, we shouldn't go right now. We need to lay low. And she basically expresses jealousy of Renslayer, and like seemingly like it seems like she's in love with Timely.
Yeah.
She says how thankful she was to He Who Remains for giving her autonomy, and like says he would always like play chess with her and stuff. But she says the thing he never gave her to make her complete was a body. And there's like in his shop there's like a bunch of mannequins, and like she like puts her face on like one of the mannequins' bodies, you know.
Yeah.
And I forget exactly what her dialogue is. Like at first it seemed like maybe she was going to convince Timely to make her a body, but then she got so creepy, like it creeped him out, and he like, you know, turned her off.
Yeah, she seemed mad.
Like, what did you think of this turn? It almost makes me. I actually thought this was probably the thing I found most interesting in the episode was kind of Miss Minutes like heel turn here, and like it makes me think like they have more plans for her, like bigger plans than maybe you would think.
Yeah, I mean, she explained that she's kind of like coded herself after a while, so she's developed herself autonomously. I don't know. I mean, yeah, she has free will, so she can do whatever she wants. I'm not sure what her plan is.
She's definitely stirring the pot.
Yeah.
So yeah, he turns her off, and then this is something that happens in a lot of shows, and I find it kind of silly, but Renslayer like shows up. She's like in that room, and I'm like, how did she get there? How long has she been there? I mean, I guess if she somehow came through her time door, she could have done it that silently. But it's
Yeah.
like there's no way she could have got there ahead of them, you know? And even like I'm almost like, how did she track them down anyways? I don't know. It's just one of those things you gotta just like go, okay, she did it. But like I don't know, you can't think too hard about it.
Right.
But she like appears in that room, and she's got like some sort of crude weapon that Timely made. It's just like
It looks like it looks like one of those pruning sticks.
it does kind of that's yeah. It kind of looks like maybe it's like a early version of a pruning stick. Yeah, I
Which
was
is
thinking,
like he made that in the 1800s. That's insane.
which I guess if he had the TVA book, it kind of makes sense with this whole thing where he's like,
Yeah.
the ideas are solid, I just can't quite make it yet. So that's
But how do
kind
you
of
have the technology for that?
that's true. Even though he says that he's making things that he couldn't have made during that time period.
Right. Yeah.
So she starts threatening him with that weapon, and right on cue, Loki and Mobius show up, and Mobius pleads with her not to hurt Timely. Although I don't think she would have anyway, because she kind of needs him for her plan.
Yeah.
I forget her exact dialogue here, but she has a speech about how she represents order and how the TVA fell into chaos without her. But I'm like, how would she really know that? Because,
Yeah. She hasn't been there.
yeah, she hasn't been there. Like, for all she knows, like, the TVA could be running just fine. And really, besides the whole loom exploding thing, it is running relatively well.
I mean, she doesn't know about the loom anyway.
Well, no, I think she does, because she in the conversation when they were at his house in Chicago, like she mentioned that the loom was falling apart. So
Oh, okay.
I think Mobius told her.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So Sylvie once again explodes into the room with her magic, and that knocks everybody down. It's convenient for her, like when she appears places, like her magic's just going to destroy it. Like, she gets an upper hand, like instantly everyone's going to get knocked down. Like, can she just appear in a room without messing everything up? But anyway, she threatens Timely, puts a sword to his throat, and he's basically like pleading with her, saying like, I haven't done anything wrong. But she's like, you will. You'll do terrible things. You'll take away everybody's free will. But Timely's like, in my heart, that's not who I am. And so he eventually talks Sylvie out of killing him.
Which was insane. You're telling me Sylvie's mind was changed that easily because a guy was like, I won't do that. What? I mean, they gave him the book for a reason. Like, there must be a reason this is the one they chose to, like, Renslayer chose to help, and that He Who Remains chose to help. Like, I don't know.
I would kind of like it if in the next episode he fixes the loom and Sylvie does show back up to mess him up and be like, suckers.
That at least makes sense. Yeah.
I would like that just because it would show like, okay, like she didn't really fall for this thing. She just, became like pragmatic enough to be like, okay, this guy does have to save the world before I can kill him, something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So Loki, Mobius, and Timely walk through the time door, but then they look back and Sylvie's like, I'll deal with this lady, with the Renslayer. So Sylvie threatens her and she's like, if you're going to kill me, just kill me. And Sylvie's like, no, what you want is power, right? You want to end up at the end of time with He Who Remains. So she's like, I'm going to grant your wish. So she opens up the door, a time door, and kicks Renslayer through. And she basically goes to the end of the time where we see like He Who Remains, like his remains, I guess, like his rotting corpse,
Yeah.
So Renslayer opens up Miss Minutes. And Miss Minutes says she knows a secret about Renslayer, but it's going to make her very, very angry. And so that's the cliffhanger we go out on for the next episode.
Wait, she knows a secret about Kang, right? That's what she said?
I thought she said she had a secret about Renslayer.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she said Kang. I thought she said
No, I could
Renslayer.
be wrong. I might have misheard that.
If she did, do you have any guesses of what that might be?
No idea. I mean, they've completely this whole Kang like from the 1800s. Everything is like so weird to me. Like if I, I don't know where they're going with this. Like I get that they're gonna like he's gonna become smarter really fast. He's gonna figure out things really quickly now, but I don't know.
You know what I think would be kind of interesting is because we don't know what Renslayer's former life was, and we don't know what, at least I don't think we do, and we don't know what
No,
Mobius's.
Renslayer was a principal in a hospital or at a school.
Oh yeah, we do. We did see that in that.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it would be interesting to find out that like her and Mobius were like a married couple,
Right. That'd
and
be
they don't
interesting.
remember.
Yeah, that would be a good twist.
I would think that would be kind of a cool twist
Yeah.
because they have like this contentious relationship. It would be kind of cool if they found out, oh man, like we were husband and wife, we loved each other.
Right. Yeah. Huh.
That's probably wrong, but I just thought that would be a cool twist.
Yeah, that would be something I wouldn't have expected. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like it is something that Miss Mintz would probably think would anger Renslayer, but
Yeah.
that's just a guess. But I think that'd be cool. Well, that was the episode. So I imagine we got our lead into the next episode, which is them, presumably fixing the loom.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting though because that's kind of been like the urgent, like ticking clock.
Right.
If they do fix that next episode, then what do you think? Like the next, big thing. Like, do you think they? What do they do with Timely? Do you think they try like imprison him?
I mean, yeah. They're gonna. I don't know. I think all the Kangs are enemies at this point, right?
Yeah, you would think so. You would at least think they would, largely consider pruning him from the timeline.
Right. Yeah.
But I think after he fixes, or like maybe before he fixes the loom, like he'll be like, I'm gonna need some guarantee or something that I won't be killed, or I don't know, maybe Sylvie will come into play and she'll do something with him. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
It could be that this Kang is actually good. Like it could be that he proves himself. Like they're kind of setting up this, that path that he talked to Sylvie and said, "You don't know what's in my heart." Who knows? Maybe he's a good Kang, but I don't know.
So I think it would be cool for them to have at least one good Kang on their side in this fight against all the other Kangs.
Mm-hmm.
And it would kind of make sense if there's so many variations on him, like that a single one would be kind of good,
Yeah.
I like that idea. But yeah, I think next episode will be interesting just because, like I said, like so far the big threat has been the loom, and it seems like they're going to get that resolved. So it's like, and we're halfway through the season now, so it's like for the back half of the season, what's going to be the big driving drama, that needs to be resolved.
Right. Exactly.
Well, AJ, any final thoughts on this episode or things you're looking forward to in the next episode?
I'm really interested in seeing where they go with this version of Kang, like what he does, what his choices are. Just I want to see who he becomes.
What's kind of interesting though is when they revealed their roadmap before, like I don't think they had like a third season of Loki before the Kang Dynasty movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, like I'm wondering if the whole Kang story is going to get enough room to breathe and be like as satisfying as like the Thanos story was,
Right.
Because like I don't feel like we're going to get a ton, like we might get Kang cameos in other movies, but I don't think we're going to get as much like development as we are in the Loki show,
Yeah.
as far as Kang goes. So Do you think that Victor Timely will be the only Kang variant we see this season? I kind of think
I think so.
I could possibly see like another quick cameo by those three that we saw at the end of Quantumania, but
Yeah.
I kind of think, yeah, he'll probably be the only one we really spend any amount of time with
Yeah.
during this season. But yeah, overall I like this episode better than last episode, but still probably not as well as the first episode. But I still enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
don't mind going to the Wild West.
To me, this is like so far my least favorite episode, but at the same time, there's a lot of maneuvering they can do from here. So let's see. Like they set up the stage for who this guy is, and now they're going to show us what he can do. So I'm interested.
And this episode was still miles ahead, from any episode of Secret Invasion or
Yes,
any
yes,
of
I would
those.
watch
So,
this 1,000 times more. Yeah.
so they're on a good track, I think. Well, everybody, thank you for watching our review. If you will, please leave comments. Tell us what you thought of this episode, what you're looking forward to, any predictions you may have. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps us out a lot. If you like to listen in audio version, you can also subscribe on your podcast catcher of choice. Leave us thumbs up, positive reviews, all that good stuff. If you like, you can follow me over on Twitter/X at Zach Jones Live. That's ZachJonesLive. And that's going to do it for all of our shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please, please, please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.
Take care.